and get started. Normally we do this as a meeting style so we can see everybody's faces, but we had a lot of people that wanted to eat junk food and drink wine. So this one is just going to be a webinar. You just see our faces, unfortunately. So here with you in spirit, we miss you all. Wish I could see your faces on camera. Welcome, welcome everybody. This is our first virtual junk food and wine pairing. I think, Marta, we probably should just start by thanking Shide, who continues to pay us as we come up with these ideas that allow us to basically drink wine all the time. And now we are getting paid to eat junk food on the company dime. So definitely a few things that could be worse for work. Thank you guys all for being here tonight and allowing us to partake in our little adventures and joining us on all of these. So for those of you new to our virtual, my name is Chelsea. I consider myself the resident wine drinker, which over the past about 4 years now has led me to believe that I am at least an expert in drinking Shide wine. Unfortunately, I am not going to be drinking with you guys today as normal. I do have some buns in the oven. And so I did taste and spit these wines earlier with Marta while we prepped for this virtual. So I know all the flavor combinations we're going to go over, and I'll have no problem enjoying the junk food. I've already opened the Lay's and the Cheetos, so we should be good to go. If you want to say hello to everyone, Marta.
Well, welcome everybody. This is really a fun tasting for all of us. It kind of breaks food and wine down into very basic components and why the foods and wine pair well together. We encourage you all to participate in the chat. We will do our best to respond to all the comments as we can. And just in case you didn't hear Chelsea quite right, she did say buns, as in twins. So all of us here at Shide are extremely excited for Chelsea and her family.
Yes, and I think that twins gives me permission to eat junk food for 3 tonight. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. If anybody just wants to quickly, I want to make sure our chat is working because it's going to be super important. So if anybody wants to say hello in the chat, just let us know that you guys are here. And I'm not seeing, we're getting high fives. Okay, so I guess high fives mean people are here. And if anybody's not tuning in from California and they want to go ahead and type into us where they are tuning in from. I'm just hoping our chat is working. I know Mr. Eric is tuning in. If Eric even wants to go ahead and say hello. All right, I will have, are you getting any messages? No, okay. I will have our producer work on that. I'm wondering if we're having an issue with our messages.
Oh,
okay.
The pictures came up of everybody.
The chat was disabled.
Chat is disabled. Okay.
Thank you, whoever said that.
You're welcome.
Let me figure out really, I was like, man, nobody wants to talk to me today. This is going to take a while. Okay, let me go ahead and figure out how to enable chats. Attendees can chat with everyone. Okay, I had it set that attendees can chat with no one. If somebody wants to go ahead and say hi now, I think we might have figured this out. There we go.
Thank
okay.
you.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. I was like, oh, this is going to be a short meeting. Awesome. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead. Thank you. Thank you for the little congratulations, Lisa. Thank you guys for helping me out with that. Hello from Georgia, Virginia. Yay. We've got East Coasters on here. That is awesome. San Ramon, Baltimore. That's so cool. It's so cool that we're all together. Doing this. So let's get started, get down to the kind of nitty and gritty of how this is going to work. if you guys are skeptical of my self-proclaimed wine expertise, have no fear. Today I do have, as always, the real wine expert and the winemaker, Miss Marta, and she is going to be guiding us on this delicious journey today.
So as you all know, there is a plethora of junk food available to all of us. And we have decided to just send you 4 options, as some of you might have had some diet restrictions. If you have extra junk food available, I would suggest narrowing it down to no more than 8 food items so your taste buds don't get overloaded. So let me explain how this tasting is going to work. The object of this class is to taste each of the 3 wines with each of the food items and see what the changes occur. Was the food better? Was the wine better? Was it worse? And ultimately, if it was a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So first, just to familiarize yourself, and I'm sure you are all thirsty, let's taste some of the wines.
Yes, so before we taste the wines with the food, we're just going to taste each of the wines separately just to understand them a bit. I would suggest each person that you guys all have about 3 glasses in front of you in case you want to go back with any pairings. And what we sent you guys food-wise, if you did buy the bundle, that's good for probably 2 people. If you have a larger group, hopefully you guys stocked up on a little bit more food. Again, now that chat is open, we definitely want you guys to be interactive. When we're going through the actual pairings with the junk food and the wine, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. Tell us what other pairings you guys have curated tonight to try out. And remember, you have the winemaker in front of you. This is your opportunity. Ask as many questions as you want. We're here. Like I said, we're getting paid, so we'll stay on all night if you guys want to keep asking questions, and we will try to answer all of them live.
And so before tasting the junk food, we really just want to do a quick taste of each of the wines to discuss the components in each wine, because that's why the reason for having 3 different glasses in front of you. So we do want people to start drinking if you haven't already. So let's go ahead and pop open the 2017 Isabel Sparkling. Cheers, everybody.
Sad not doing this with you guys. So this one is the 2017 Isabel Sparkling. This was our first vintage that was harvested from the Isabel Vineyard, which is our northernmost vineyard in Monterey, and it's going to be a blend of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. We just released this vintage this year, so it also it's kind of nice. It has that special necker on it that you guys can see that has our 50th year anniversary logo. So if you know anybody celebrating a 50th birthday or a 50th anniversary, it would kind of make a very nice gift. The 3 wines that we chose today, we chose because it makes the most sense for us to talk about mouthfeel and taste that you get in wine. So we're going to quickly, before we jump into the pregnant brain, that's what I'm going to say, jump into the food part of it, talk a little bit about taste in each of these 3. So Marta, can you talk a little bit about what is the dominant taste in this sparkling?
Well, in this sparkling, there's tons of acidity, and that's really true of sparkling pretty much worldwide. It's a sparkling wine is usually one of the most acidic wines you will find, and often with the pH of lower than 3, and water is usually around 7. So besides the acidity, there is also carbonation, and that really affects how you feel in the mouth.
And when we talk about what you feel in the mouth, people use the term mouthfeel, right? A lot. What are we talking about when we mention, ooh, this one has a nice mouthfeel to it?
So mouthfeel is a term that's used to describe a physical or a textural sensation that you get in the mouth. And it was thought that, in the case of sparkling wine anyway, that the tingling sensation you were getting on your tongue was actually the bubbles bursting, but is now thought to actually be a chemical reaction. Carbonation can increase the perception of acidity, and it can also enhance certain flavors while inhibiting others. Bubbles or the effervescence can also act as a palate cleanser.
Okay, and all of this really will, when we're trying the food, we'll touch back on this a lot, so it'll make a lot of sense with the wines that we're trying. So when we do go through the Isabel, keep in mind acidity and mouthfeel. And then if you guys poured yourself some of the Gewürztraminer, that's going to be our 2020 vintage, and this pretty bottle here. Go ahead and just try that on its own. And remember that these are wines that we picked to demonstrate issues involved with food pairing. These 3 wines wouldn't necessarily be how you would progress through a meal or anything like that. So yeah, go ahead and tell us a little bit about taste with Gewürztraminer.
So this Gewürztraminer has a slight residual sugar. It's only about 3%. It is not so sweet that it would be considered a dessert wine, but it is noticeably sweet, especially if you tasted it after the Isabel. Pardon me. As we taste through these wines, I think you'll find it really interesting how this sweetness interacts with a lot of these foods.
Okay, so we've got acidity, we've got mouthfeel with the sparkling. Now we're gonna note that we've got sweetness with the Gewürztraminer. What about our Cabernet? Everyone take a, ooh, somebody got a Gruner. The Gruner is delicious, actually. That's gonna be a fun one, but Jan got a Gruner. So Jan, I'm very curious as to what, hopefully not.
The bottle shapes were the same.
The bottle shapes are the same. So Jan, well, when we get to the tasting, you'll have to let us know how everything tries with the Gruner. The last one that we're going to taste before we do the pairings together will be the Cabernet Sauvignon 2019 vintage. This one is 100% Cabernet grapes and it's not blended with anything else. So can you describe the basic taste that you get in Cab?
So first off, you get some of that bitterness and astringent quality from the tannins. And this comes from the grape skins as well as from the oak barrels. These tannins can also affect the mouthfeel. Some people feel it really dries out their mouth or coats their tongue or kind of a roughness in the mouth. But each of these tastes and mouthfeels will affect each person differently. And it will affect how you like or dislike a pairing. And remember that in food and wine pairing, there is really no right or wrong answer. And what is best for you is really what's best.
And I hate to put you on the spot, Marta, but seeing as we have a few people that received Gruner, is there anything you can mention about the taste of Gruner when we're talking about these pairings? It could be a little similar, correct, to the Gewürztraminer?
It's not sweet, but it's very aromatic. And I think those aromatic components are what you're going to key into on the Gruner. The Gruner is dry. So it has, but it's very floral and very aromatic. So I think those are the components that I would key into on the Gruner.
Personally, the Gruner, I know for a fact, is one of Marta's favorites. So
yes, it is. But I have the Gewürztraminer.
So I am kind of curious to see how these pairings will go with that then. And now Jessica and Jan, you guys have some homework. You really have to pay attention so we can learn
fill us in
as well. Yes. So we should all have, based on whatever wine's in front of you, half of you guys don't even have the bundle at all. So perhaps you just chose your own wines, which is exactly what we wanted people to do here. We are going to now pair it with the junk food. And I want everyone to go ahead, at least start with the Isabel and pour yourself a kind of generous amount of this. And we're going to go over how we are going to make this work for tasting the wine and the food.
Okay, so let's get started. So remember, an ideal pairing is where the wine tastes good and the food tastes good so that they complement each other. I think, so we sent you a grid with the junk foods down one side and the wines across the top. And if you added more of junk food items, I would suggest that if you were only using the 4, they'd be in the order that they are here. And if not, if you added something, I would hope that you would put them in some sort of order from savory to sweet. So starting with the Isabel, then I want you to take a sip of the wine, a taste of the first item on your grid, and simply put a plus or a minus in the square if you think it was a good pairing or not. And you can make a note if you want, like, oh, the fruit seemed to disappear or whatever. Go through each food and pairing, tasting the Isabel between each food item. Chelsea, your sound went away.
Okay. This is what me and Marta's looked like when well, this one was mine. I don't know if Marta has, okay, Marta has hers too. So we tasted through a lot of wine, and a lot of junk food.
Lot of food.
So this is kind of what we want you guys it to look like. You make pairings for each one. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you guys time now to take the Isabel and pair it with each junk food. And we're just going to keep talking. We're going to talk a little bit about what taste is. So remember, as you guys start, you can start right now. You're going to start with the Isabel and the potato chips. Type into the grid something that you like, something that you don't like. The more interactive, the better. This class used to be done in person, so we could see when everybody was done eating and drinking. So it'll be kind of up to you guys. And you're really running through the grid with the Isabel. So Isabel sip, potato chip bite, then sip again, decide how you feel about how the wine tastes and how the food tastes. Then you're going to move on. And I believe we put in the top of the chat the order to go down, to go through all of that. So if you're wondering, again, why we aren't doing the same thing on the screen, we would not be able to talk and eat. And we also did this ahead of time for you guys, as I mentioned. And we do have a little picture to show you guys.
Yes, it's proof. This was on Chelsea's patio, and we actually tasted through 11 different junk food items so that we could respond to any question from Funyuns to Cool Ranch Doritos.
Yeah, and anyone who's never been to Pacific Grove or the Monterey Peninsula, you can notice that we have sweaters and jackets on, and this was July during a national heat wave. So that should give you guys an idea of what the peninsula looks like here during the summer months. So you guys, you have the fun job. Go ahead and get started if you haven't already. And Marta, while they're going through their grid for sparkling, let's just talk a little bit about taste.
So besides being a chemical reaction in your mouth, taste has also been used to describe different experiences or cultures. But here, the definition would be that of a distinctive property of a substance that affects our gustatory sense, as well as our liking or disliking, personal preference of something. So before we can discuss any pairing, junk food or not, we have to discuss what taste is. There are 5 tastes that have been identified because of a physicochemical response in your mouth. And this is sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami, which is considered to be savory.
So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about those individual tastes while you guys are just sipping and snacking. And taste receptors that are in our mouth, they've basically developed evolutionarily over time to help with our ability to sense prey, which is pretty fascinating. So taste, and maybe not with junk food, but taste actually helps to ensure our survival.
That's right. Prey or a source of food. For instance, sugar or sweetness is one of those that's easiest for most people to recognize. And this is thought to be due to the fact that our bodies recognize sugars or carbohydrates as a source of energy, which is important to sustain us. So I might just head straight for the M&Ms if we're talking sustenance here.
Okay, perfect. And then I'll go to the doctor and let them know that I increased my carbs due to survival mode here on the mean streets of Monterey. And Amanda said it's 101 in SoCal, so she misses the peninsula weather. I would trade places with you right now, but I would also say that I would love a glass of hot sparkling in the weather if it's 101 degrees. So let's talk about sour. How does that fit in?
So a sourness is a detection of acidity, and most commonly found in fruits such as citrus fruits like lemons, as well as fermented foods such as vinegar and wine, of course. And scientists suspect that sourness might have developed as a warning that food was decomposing and might be potentially unsafe to eat.
Ah, that makes sense. That's why I'm not a fan of, what are those sour gummy worms? Is that just what they're called? My mind just knows that they're not good for you. What about salt? I know we don't really have salt in the wine, but a lot of this junk food definitely has salt.
That is totally true. Lots of salt in junk food. And there really is no salty taste in wine, although some sherry from different parts of Spain have been known to have a salty quality about them. But salt is one of the easiest, simplest tastes for our brains. And when we have been programmed that a little salt tastes good and a lot of salt it tastes bad. Salt is really necessary to regulate all our body fluids. And if you haven't read it, I would recommend highly recommend a book called Salt, A World History by Mark Kurlansky, which is a fascinating history of the importance of salt throughout the world and civilization over thousands of years, as even wars have been fought over natural sources of salt.
Okay, I'm probably one of those people that have adapted to crave salt. I think I put salt on everything unless there's no salt at the table. And then I ask and I get that dirty look from the waiter because it's rude to ask for salt in your food. What about bitterness?
Well, bitterness is something that humans are most sensitive to, and we can detect it at extremely low levels. And it is found in foods such as coffee, if I can consider coffee a food, and endive, for instance. In wine, it is usually associated with the tannins that give the red wine that astringent component. The ability to detect bitterness at really low thresholds is a survival mechanism as well, because a large number of naturally occurring toxic compounds would kill you if you ate them.
Okay. And what about umami?
Well, umami receptors were only recently discovered in Japan in 1908. Umami is found in foods such as chicken broth, mushrooms, fish, and cured meats. And umami translates to good flavor or good taste or completeness of flavor, and is usually compared to savory. Scientists think that this taste may signal to the body intake of protein and can stimulate the secretion of digestive fluids.
I'm looking at the comments, and Colleen said the spicy Cheetos with the sparkling wine was amazing, which ties into what some Asian countries consider a sixth taste. What can you tell us about that?
Well, bring on the hot sauce, the ginger, the pepper, and the horseradish. All those foods, and including the flaming hot Cheetos, stimulate the trigeminal nerve, which is a nerve that it's in our face right here. And it's not really a receptor as far as the taste goes, because it's a physical reaction as opposed to an actual taste.
I find the evolutionary aspect of taste so insanely fascinating. It makes sense that there's books on it and all of that stuff. And then it's more fun when you get to add wine into the mix. I'm curious, I know we got Colleen, if anybody else has anything that they have tasted through that has worked for them, that hasn't worked. There's probably some duds that some people think as well. And I have okay, Marta's got hers there. I have my trusty producer. She's looking over comments, so she's going to tally up too. But we need you guys to let us know what you like and what you don't like.
The thumbs up or the thumbs down. So
Melissa loved everything with Isabel. It's their favorite. I'm with you. Nothing, everything, put a glass of bubbles in front of me. I've already said that I better have a bottle of Isabel next to my bedside delivery room. I'll pair bubbles with two
bottles, one for each baby.
Jeff likes the Isabel better with the salty than the sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Christine, producer, are we writing all this down? Salted pumpkin seeds, and I'm not sure if that's a junk food either, but it sounds absolutely
We're going with it. We're going
delicious. Let's see. We've got some like the Twinkie, some like the jerky. Okay. Ooh, Kristen added Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies.
Oh, don't get me off on the Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, keep them coming in. We've got the producer hard at work. Her finger's gonna start cramping from all the notes she's writing.
That's
Marta,
great.
do you want to talk a little bit about what you think pairs with the Isabel?
So since I only know the 4 junk foods that we provided, let me start with what I think Isabel pairs best with, and that would be the salty potato chips. And that is actually one of my favorite combinations, is the salt with the sparkling wine. The salt softens the acidity in the sparkling and can give the perception of increased sweetness. This is also why sometimes you see people salt fruit, like watermelon or cantaloupe, for instance, because it would give you an increased perception of sweetness. I found that the jerky seemed to reduce the fruit in the Isabel a little bit, and the Flamin' Hots to me just seemed spicier. And one of the reasons for that is the trigeminal nerve, which we talked about in the face. The carbon dioxide in the Isabel affects the trigeminal nerve, as does the heat from the Flamin' Hot Cheetos. So essentially, you're compounding the spiciness by having this CO2 and the heat at the same time.
Now, my next question is I know the answer to it, which is gonna be your least favorite. And I will start by saying we did also get, let me scroll a little bit. Estella is not a fan of Twinkies, but really enjoyed it with the Isabel. But what is the least appealing with the Isabel for you, Miss Marta?
Well, and like I said, taste is so subjective and it's so personal, but to me, the least appealing pairing was the Twinkies. And that's because the Twinkies and the Isabel the Twinkies are so sweet that they make the Isabel taste so much more acidic. And I also think that this demonstrates why the pairing of wedding cake with sparkling wine is sadly a waste of good bubbly. Try and remember to pair a sweet foods with a wine that is as sweet or sweeter than the food.
Okay, and I'm gonna back up Estella here a little bit on this one, because somebody that lives in the household with Miss Marta ate her Twinkies that she was supposed to bring to my house when we tried this. So she went to the store and picked up Twinkies, but she didn't pick up regular Twinkies. She picked up like Hawaiian
Tropical blast
Twinkies,
tropical blast
icing, and those were absolutely disgusting. So that could be part of the reason we did not like that either. We also have some people that had it with cheese and dark chocolate. Ooh, peanut butter cups, cheddar cheese. Isabel good with cheddar cheese. I love Isabel with any type.
That's the salt in the cheese.
Exactly. And I agree with the 4, Marta, that was actually on the bundle that we sent out with everyone. The potato chips to me was a hit. And if you guys did like it with the potato chips, try it out with some French fries. That's probably my go-to, a really crunchy outside, soft middle with the Isabel. Same reason that salt is really going to soften the acidity and really smooth it out nicely. And I know, Marta, you mentioned the Twinkies being sweet and not really working for you, but we also tried the Isabel with Chips Ahoy, just like the little bag of the little mini Chips Ahoy, and the sparkling brought out a sort of vanilla nutty component, and it did that with the wine and the food, and it really actually tastes very, very good. So I think it kind of just goes to show you that just because a pairing might not work in general, it's still really fun to create your own pairing, and you can find a gem or two that you didn't even think would pair. So I'm definitely curious. Did anybody type in if anything really surprised you, if you thought something was going to work?
The kettle corn. I got a kettle corn in here. I think that would have been good. Yeah.
I had kettle corn yesterday. Kettle corn is good. Unfortunately, I didn't get to have it with the Isabel. Keep typing in. We're gonna move on to the next wine, which will either be the Gruner or the Gewürztraminer, depending on what's in front of you. But again, if there was anything super surprising, anything that you really thought was going to be magic that didn't do the trick, vice versa, put it in there because we're marking all of this stuff down. So, ooh, Isabel and fried chicken.
Fried chicken. Okay.
Right? That's a yes, right?
Yes, because of the acidity and the fat. Really.
And the salt, right?
And the salt. Yeah, well, yeah, all of that. Boom.
Win. Okay, I know what I'm gonna pick up on my way home then. Yes, that's a great one. Awesome. Okay, keep typing them in there. We're gonna move on to the Gewürztraminer. Remember, taste the wine, taste the food, taste the wine. Same thing we just did, but now you're just doing it with the Gewürztraminer. And while you guys do that, we're going to just start talking a bit about what we would even consider junk food to be. So go ahead, Marta.
So we are keeping score, so do keep sending in those comments. So the term junk food was coined actually in 1972 by the Center for Science in the Public Interest.
And I think that's also really cool because in 1972, that's when we were founded. So junk food is also celebrating a 50-year anniversary.
Yep, that's right. How far junk food and Scheid have come in the last 5 decades. So junk food can really be defined by the following components. I think we have a screen.
Sorry, the producer was writing down the comments.
Too many comments. Okay, so typically, junk food can be known to be low in fiber and high in palatability or tastiness. I think we would probably all agree with that. It offers a high amount of calories for a small volume. It's high in fat. It's usually high in sugar in the liquid form, such as in corn syrup. And the definition can hinge on someone's class or their social status, depending on what you define as junk food.
Yes. Every single one of those points sounds fantastic. I love sugar in liquid form. I love things that are high in fat. I would say our disclaimer would probably be that beef jerky is probably not considered a junk food. It is high in protein, low in carbs, but it's salty. And especially when we're talking about the Isabel and when we get to the cab, you'll kind of understand why we chose this. And it was definitely a little bit easier than sending you guys a slice of cheesy pizza, which would have been my first choice if I could have gotten my hands on that. Or we were thinking about sending you guys some pork rinds, which would have worked really, really well for today. But the only thing I could find was giant bags and I couldn't package that. So that's kind of what we ended with.
Yeah, so truth be told, I consider junk food anything that I can buy out of a vending machine or that I can purchase at a gas station, which is where I went to pick up a bunch of the junk foods that we tried for our research. They did not have a shortage of Funyuns, cookies, chips, anything I needed for me to get my hands on.
Yeah, I'm just still reading through the comments we had with Isabel. That's awesome. Isabel, it's great. Yes, it's so great. 4 more months, Chelsea, I can do this. I will not open this bottle on live Zoom. Okay. The only science I'm going to mention to you guys, and hopefully you're tasting through the Gewürztraminer, the Groomer, is really about how junk food causes a release of dopamine in the brain. And so the reward encourages susceptible individuals to eat more unhealthy foods. So something I think a lot of people are familiar with when it comes to junk foods is getting certain cravings, which is an emotional state characterized by a desire to consume a certain food. That's the definition. It is not to be confused with simple hunger, which is different.
So I'm guessing you have a good idea what a craving is by now.
I do. I haven't yet had the need to dip pickles into my ice cream or anything like that, but boxed mac and cheese has been on the top of my list, and sandwiches. My husband's been really happy the past few months because we're eating all his favorite foods now. But I also, if I could, I would like to argue that when a craving hits, I don't think it differs from hunger at all. I think it's the same thing, and that's coming from a pregnant woman, not a scientist, but I think that sometimes that craving feels just like hunger.
That's an absolute fact. And I think junk food makes us happy, and you combine that with wine and you really can't go wrong. I know you did some research on the top voted junk foods for certain states. Would you like to share that with us?
I did. So let's go ahead, and I have a map that compiled this year's most popular junk foods based on states. They used, I guess, a kind of Google trend for that. So if you guys look up from consuming all the food that you're eating right now, here in California, Cheetos I see is the top choice. I bet that's a mix between regular Cheetos and hot Cheetos, probably. I know a lot of people here in California love their hot Cheetos. If any Jersey peeps are on here, my Jersey peeps, Oreos, okay, that's, I get double, right? I get double stuffed Oreos because I'm having two. But yeah, I'm curious if you guys put in where you're tuning in from, or tell us whether or not, let's see, I think, did we get a comment? It's not letting me look at it right now.
So yeah, feel free to put your comments in where you guys are tuning in from so we can see what your most likely junk food is.
Yes, and they noted a few things with this study while you guys are looking over finding where you are and whether or not that junk food works for you. Oreos are the most popular snack in the US. They're favored by 5 states. 29 states favor sweet snacks over salty ones. All the Eatos made the list. We got Jersey, yay, pizza and cheesesteaks. Eric said cosmic brownies. I don't, which.
Yeah, that's in Colorado. Did you know?
Wow. Love the dark chocolate peanut butter cups from Trader Joe's. Those are so good. Yeah, all the Eatos, Fritos, Doritos, Cheetos made the map according to this study.
So were there any junk foods that really didn't make the cut?
Yes, nobody in any state combined likes Butterfingers, High Chews, let's see, M&Ms, Reese's, or Twizzlers, which makes sense because Twizzlers are gross. Yeah.
Well, I was surprised in California that it was Cheetos because I was thinking it might be chips and salsa, but maybe that could be considered a food group all on its own.
Yeah, well, when I eat chips and salsa, I consider the salsa to basically be a vegetable. So that's like my vegetable intake for the day. And then you got the corn. So I think that is healthy. Let's see. Now I can see everyone again. Let me go back up. I'm originally from Chicago. I'm surprised with, I don't know, what was the Illinois one, Amanda? You'd have to type that one in. I don't know what that one was. Jersey pizza and cheesesteaks, cosmic brownies, dark chocolate, Cheetos. Ooh, Wawa hoagies. They just hit differently. That is true. Colleen says Twinkies for the win with the Gewürztraminer. Lauren said Twizzlers are gross. Yes, agreed. Eric getting technical and is asking me what age was polled. It was based off a Google search on states, so all ages. Kim and Lynn said the Gewürztraminer tastes great with the Flamin' Hot Cheetos, as well as jalapeno poppers.
Ooh.
With raspberry habanero sauce. Oh, Amanda, Skinny Pop. Yeah, it doesn't really sound like a junk food at all. Dave and Amy from New York liked the salty and spicy for the Gewürztraminer, not the sweet. They thought it killed the taste. Okay. Twizzlers are a lesser form of red vines. Oh my gosh. Okay, we don't need to get nasty on here, guys. Just kidding. Okay, Marta, do you want to talk a little bit about what you got with the Gewürztraminer and these wines and these foods?
I think this is an interesting pairing. So I'm not sure if you noticed, but to me, it seemed like the Gewürztraminer tasted a little bit sweeter with the potato chips, but the fruit kind of dissipated a little bit. The Gewürztraminer also seemed to mellow out the heat of the flaming hot Cheetos, as was mentioned early by someone, because of the spiciness. I was surprised by the pairing with the jerky, and I can't really explain it, but the jerky seemed to increase the fruit and the sweetness in the wine, and perhaps it was the salt. That's my only guess.
Yeah, that was a fun one where we were really surprised. We thought we were going to get one thing and then we got another. I personally enjoyed the Gewürztraminer with the hot Cheetos. In general, I'm not a huge fan of hot Cheetos, and I don't typically eat super hot food, but I would pair a Gewürztraminer with like a mildly spicy Thai food. So usually if I get Thai, it'd be a medium spice pad see with shrimp, and I feel like that would be really delicious with the sweeter style wine.
Well, slightly sweet wines like this are often paired with spicy Asian food, as that slight sweetness will cut the heat. On a side note, if you ever take a bite of a chili and you find your face just kind of melting from the heat, don't reach for the beer, don't reach for the glass of wine, because the alcohol will only exacerbate that. Go for the sugar bowl, a teaspoon of sugar, or if you feel like the pros, go for some really high-fat milk. The same is true if you ever toss too many chili flakes into spaghetti sauce and you go, whoops. The way you can fix that is toss in a couple of spoonfuls of sugar, and that will definitely dissipate the heat.
Okay, sorting through more comments. People are really caught up on cosmic brownies, but I'm trying to find ones that are about the
Now we're
taste.
gonna have to look those up.
The Gruner, which was one that some people got, we do have that. The Gruner, the beef jerky took the floral note out of the Gruner for them, but smoothed out the spice of the Cheetos.
Gummy bears, huh?
Twinkies, peppery on the mouth, Twinkies, silky mouthfeel. This is with the Gruner. Okay. Interesting. We have some people that aren't a fan of Gewürztraminer in general, but added it with Twinkies, Girl Scout cookies, gummy bears, and liked it better. Kristen's favorite was with the jerky. Okay.
And Girl Scout cookies, you know, there are tons of, if you Google on the internet, there are tons of pairings for wine and Girl Scout cookies. So
yeah. Jeff said his wife thought the pairing with the beef jerky in a very technical sense, she got very technical. She said it was weird. So okay. Yeah, the sweet's a fun one, I think, especially to match up with foods and see what works and what doesn't. Let's go ahead then, and I think
you had some random food pairings that with the Cool Ranch Doritos, didn't you?
Oh yeah, so when we tried this, let me go back to my sheet. So another random junk food that we tried when we did it was with Cool Ranch Doritos, which is super, I thought it was going to be really gross with the Gewürztraminer, but I found that it gave the wine a really round melon tropical aftertaste, which was cool. And then we also had, and I was a little upset because Marta took the rest with her and didn't leave them at my house, where we had powdered donuts. And Marta said that she would have dipped her donut in that wine. So
I did say that, and I stand by it. And I think this might be the new breakfast pairing. Gewürztraminer, donuts.
Hey,
Day off.
sparkling Gewürztraminer, I don't have a problem. We had somebody come in here the other day, and it was like 12, and we thought he wanted to do a tasting. He was like, no, I had breakfast. I'm already drunk. And I was like, all right, that's my kind of guy. So he'd probably like that pairing. Let's see, Pam loved the beef jerky, and we've got a few people that liked the beef jerky with it.
Yeah.
4, according to the trusty producer over here.
Okay.
Yeah, donuts, dipping donuts in your wine. It's a new
Gewürztraminer. Yep.
no more donut in your coffee in the morning. Just open that bottle bright and early. Okay. All right. I think that's it for the Gewürztraminer. Keep typing things in. She's still going to keep writing them down. And let's go ahead and move on to the last one, which is going to be the Cabernet Sauvignon. So the only red wine that we're doing this with. So again, you guys are going to drink the wine, taste the food, drink the wine, go down the grid, and we're going to continue to just talk about all things flavor and junk food. So let's go ahead, Marta, while they're working on the cab, and differentiate between two things I think a lot of people interchange wrong or incorrectly, and that's the difference between taste and flavor. We talked about the 5 tastes, but what is flavor?
So flavor is something that both food and wine have in common, but flavor can be defined as the blend of taste and smell sensations caused by any substance in the mouth. True flavor is determined by the cooking method, the sauce, the seasonings, the blending of ingredients to form new flavors.
Okay, that makes sense.
So most people prefer foods with sensory contrasts, light and dark, sweet and salty, rapid meltdown in the mouth, crunchy and silky, and so on. All these contrasts contribute to our pleasure in eating. And when we talk taste, flavors, and eat junk food, that pleasure response to sensory contrast decreases fairly rapidly and tends not to linger. This rapid decrease in pleasure responses are the body's way of encouraging you or us in general to have an intake of a wide variety of different foods, differing in flavors and textures, and maybe it encourages us to eat more junk food too. I don't know. People usually have a method of eating that alternates between one food and the other, as this can help cleanse the palate. But I'm sure we also know some kids that will eat one food until it's done and then move on to another food before they eat something else.
Well, that's why they have those plates that everything like separates, so nothing touches each other. You can go from like one section to the other, or you eat one food first because you're my husband and he eats his favorite part of the meal, so that I don't even have a chance to ask him to have a bite. Because it's gone by the time I look up, and then he'll move on to the other stuff on his plate. And Lisa always eats her vegetables first. That's good. You know, you fill yourself up with the healthy food and then you eat the other stuff. That's smart, Lisa. I love that I basically now just talk about junk food, made you do all the research on the food and wine pairing, and I've just transitioned into a junk food expert. And so my job when we were prepping for this was really just to, yes, Ben, he's living in the moment, no time to taste. He's right with you there. He's probably cheersing to you right now. So what I'm going to do while you guys continue to taste the cab is I have some junk food facts that I looked up. It was a hard job, but I came up with 2 fun facts that I thought were fun. The first one, Marta already knew, but I thought it was pretty cool. So let me get my thing here. According to Hershey, the very first s'mores recipe, oh no, wait, I gave it away already, didn't I?
No.
I did. Okay, sorry. I thought I skipped ahead on this paper that I had. According to Hershey, the very first s'mores recipe appeared in a Girl Scout handbook. The name, as it turns out, is exactly what it sounds like. People kept asking for some more of the graham cracker, chocolate, and marshmallow treat that's a staple of camping trips.
And there you have it, a sensory contrast, crunchy, melty goodness. I did know that fact because I was a Girl Scout for many years, but I wasn't sure the year that actually came out. And it turns out it was Tramping and Trailing with the Girl Scouts in 1927.
Yes, I think s'mores checks everybody's boxes. I have never met somebody who does not enjoy a s'more. Chocolate, marshmallow, graham cracker, delicious. Okay, and while you guys continue to go through your grid, and remember, type in what you guys like with the cab, don't like with the cab. I have one more fact that Marta didn't know that I was able to pull up here. So Betty Crocker, she has her own signature. She's this woman behind the brownie mixes, the baking ingredients. Betty Crocker is not a real woman at all. Shocker.
Bad.
So again, I'm gonna read, I took this off the web. So in 1921, Gold Medal Flour held a contest in which it received a flood of submissions, as well as questions about baking. So the company responded using the friendly, totally made up name Betty Crocker. The name Crocker came from a recently retired director of the Washburn Crosby. Yeah, exactly. So Betty was chosen as a first name because it was a wholesome, cheerful sound. And then they asked all their female employees at Washburn Crosby to submit what they thought should be used as Betty Crocker's personal signature. And the winning signature was penned by a secretary named Florence. So her Betty Crocker signature was used at the closing of all the responses to all the letters regarding baking and cooking and domestic advice. So then you can see up there, I think it was 1951, so a little earlier than the picture, they put a voice to Miss Betty Crocker, and then they put a face to her. So that is what Betty Crocker has looked like over the past few decades.
I did not know that, and I had conjured up a vision of what Betty Crocker would look like in my mind, and somehow she sort of looked like my mom.
I know, right? You just like imagine someone in the
Yeah.
kitchen, just like
Totally.
Okay, so we brought up s'mores, and now people want to know what you would pair with the s'mores, Marta.
Well, I think the s'mores would probably go well with the Cabernet, because you've got that chocolate, and you've got that fat. It depends on how you like your marshmallows as well. Some people like them charred, and that's the difference than if you like them just golden brown. I think that might make a difference.
Jeff said the claret would be a good pairing with the s'mores.
I think that would pair well.
Yes, that's good. As a new wine drinker, I have yet to learn why red wine can't be cold. Is there a reason?
No, there is no reason. If you like it cold, by all means, drink it cold. What will happen when you drink red wine is the tannins will seem more harsh, and that happens just because of it happens just because of the temperature change. So if you like that astringent, bitter quality in red wine, it will become more so if the wine is cold. And if you don't, as you notice, as the red wine warms up, it will become less and less harsh.
Got it. So it mellows out a little bit
Yes.
as it warms up. Okay, cool. Looks like we have a few people that would say beef jerky with the cab is their number one choice. Colleen liked that one. Jeff liked that one. Josh liked that one. Somebody thinks the cab and the Twinkies remind him of minced meat pies. Sweet slight berry and a touch of pepper. I've never had a minced meat pie, so.
Oh, you haven't lived.
Clearly not. Eric wants to know what wine to smuggle into movies to pair with the popcorn. For legal purposes, we can tell you what to pair with popcorn, just not what you would smuggle into a movie theater, Marta.
Yeah, I think popcorn to me, if you really like that buttery component, you might like a nice buttery Chardonnay, or maybe something like our Pinot Blanc that might taste that well. I have taught this class with Cracker Jacks, but then I realized that there was peanuts in some of the Cracker Jacks, and so I had to stop teaching it with Cracker Jacks because of the peanut allergies. So
yeah. Don't need to send anybody to the hospital trying to do a wine and food pairing.
No.
We do have, Amy said the dark chocolate and licorice with the cab was great. It enhanced the flavor and thought it overall tasted good. And then Amanda said
Little Debbie. Somebody got a Little Debbie. All right.
And they liked that one with the cab.
Interesting.
This is just making me really hungry. Okay, what about you, Marta? Go ahead and break down this last tasting.
So I think this was a surprising tasting. I found that the salty chips kind of softened the tannins from the cab, but it sort of took some of the fruit away. The smoky quality of the jerky paired really well. I agree with you all. Basically, both the jerky and the wine tasted great. The Flamin' Hots didn't change the tannins at all, but it did reduce the fruit of the wine. So the wine just didn't taste as good. And the Twinkies, sadly, what can I say? On my tasting grid, I just wrote yuck. They reduced the fruit, the flavor, and tannins of the wine. So essentially, you would just be wasting a good bottle of Cabernet if you happen to be munching down on some Twinkies at the same time.
Yes. I thought I had Twinkies, and then I think I really didn't, because they kind of taste a little like rubbery to me.
That might be a crazy thing.
I'm trying to think, like in high school, I did the Nutter Butter bars, and the oatmeal cream pie bars were probably my favorite ones that I did. Kristen liked the jerky. She liked them with regular Cheetos, not with the Flamin' Hot, and she also agreed yuck on the Twinkies. Another one off the grid, one of the many wines many foods we tasted was a plain chocolate bar. And so for us, we found that one actually reduced the fruit, but it softened up the tannins a little bit with the fat that was in the chocolate.
Yes, and this was a milk chocolate. This wasn't a dark chocolate. It was just a Hershey's milk chocolate. And it has a high fat content. And that with any fatty food, it coats the inside of your mouth and it can cover up a lot of taste. So the tannins in the Cabernet can bind with the fat that's in your mouth, and it sort of acts as a palate cleanser. And that's also another reason why that Cabernet probably would taste good with things like the pork rinds.
Pork rinds. I did, when we did this tasting, I said I will try everything, and I tried the pork rinds, and then my dog was a very happy camper because the pork rinds were disgusting. And so my dog got to join us in the food pairing, the tasting, because he was very happy to eat crunchy fat. But yeah, that makes sense when you talk about the fat, and then you've got the salt and all that. So it definitely could work. Any other comments? We liked junk foods,
Taco
Taco
Bell.
Bell. I am here for it. I am here for it. Taco Bell. Probably even like a Burger King burger would be really good too. Christine does not agree with me. She would have eaten her pork rinds. She would not have given.
I would have eaten my pork rinds.
You
too.
did eat your pork rinds, Marta. You didn't give your share to my dog. Okay, so while you guys are wrapping up your comments, keep hitting us, because then we're gonna definitely go ahead and I'm gonna look at like a grid that the producer put together for us and see what winners were. But while you guys finish typing things out, let's just wrap it all up with sort of a few basic tips to remember when it comes to food and wine pairing. So let's go ahead, Marta, start with sweetness.
So sweet food suppresses the sweetness of a wine and can increase the perception of acidity, bitterness, and astringency. Sweet food can also make wine taste less fruity and make dry wines seem more acidic. So remember to serve a wine that is at least as sweet as the food that you're serving. And I think this is why the Gewürztraminer tasted so great with the donuts, as those little donuts just weren't that sweet.
Yeah, they were really good though. And then what about the sour?
Do you like it with the Twinkie?
Oh, well, yeah, that would make, we didn't like it with the Twinkie because the Twinkie was too sweet. Right, yes.
Yeah, too sweet.
Yes. What about sour?
So foods with a high amount of acidity, such as tomato-based foods or citrus-based foods, can make a wine taste richer and more mellow. If the wine is sweet to begin with, it will also taste sweeter and with sour or more acidic foods. An important point is that the wine should be as acidic or more so than the food. And
I think when we talk about the acidic wines, I like to point out that our Albarino, that's a really fun wine that we do, that don't see too often around here, but that goes so good with like a ceviche or a fish taco, and that kind of makes sense with what you're talking about. What about salty?
So the addition, the addition of salt to food can tone down the bitterness and astringency in wine, as we noted with the potato chips. Salt tends to neutralize the acidity, noted in the Isabel. Salty foods make sweet wines taste sweeter, and salty foods can be enhanced or balanced by a sense of sweetness. If you ever made dinner and with a great bottle of wine, but the pairing just didn't somehow seem right, you can change the pairing by adding some acidity, such as lemon juice or maybe a little balsamic vinegar or salt to a meal. And with just those subtle changes, you can improve the food and wine pairing. So here's a take home for you. Slice an apple, taste the apple with wine, any wine, then put some lemon juice on the wine, lemon juice on the apple, then taste the wine and see how that affected the wine. Then put some salt on a different slice of apple and taste the wine. And you'll see the huge difference that acidity and salt can make in a food and wine pairing.
I think that's such a good tip in general when it comes to food and wine pairings, because you're not stuck. If you have this pairing and you thought it was going to work and it didn't, now you're basically saying that there's a few adjustments you can make to smooth it out, which is pretty cool.
I go with the green apple. Someone asked sweet or sour. I'd go with the green apple.
Green apple, got it. And then Estella said we opened her eyes to sparkling wine. It was wonderful. Yes, it is very special. You really don't even need to pair it with food, but it is very wonderful. What about bitter?
So bitter flavors in food will increase the perception of bitter elements in wine. So a Cabernet has some bitterness or astringency, which is often that tactile response that you get in your mouth. And bitterness in wine can be accentuated by food that is sweet or spicy, and it can be suppressed by acidic, salty, or fatty foods.
Okay, and then last we have the umami.
So umami is associated with everything from steak, seafood, cheeses, and mushrooms. But where I really get it and where it really hits home to me is chicken broth. Oily fish such as sardines and tuna seem to have more of an umami flavor than a flakier white fish. So the sweet taste associated with shellfish is also associated with umami. Foods high in umami seem to increase our sensitivity to bitterness and acidity in wines, which might be why Cabernet isn't usually paired with tuna, for instance. Remember, we want both the food and the wine to taste great.
Yes. Somebody wants to know what you would pair for a basic hot dog and burger. So like a nice summer cookout.
A beer.
No, you're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say that.
Well, because I feel I'm outdoors and I tend to like cold wine. I think a nice rosé pairs great with any kind of barbecue.
Or, I mean, if you're on the peninsula and it's not warm, cab would be good, right? We were talking about the fat. With a burger with a
absolutely
nice fatty, a steak, a tri-tip. You've got the cab would be good, or
like our GSM, for instance, something a little bit fruitier, not quite so heavy.
Love our GSM. That one is so delicious. Rosé all day. Yes, that is for anywhere other than Pacific Grove or Pebble Beach. Rosé all day is probably fantastic. People agree on the beer as well. All right, a passamento. That's what Eric was saying. The GSM and flank steak fajitas.
That sounds great.
I don't know how we are even talking. Like everyone must be just so full and then still coming up with these ideas.
I know.
All right, so let me go ahead and I'm going to take a look. Let's grab this grid. Okay. So the results are in, and we do have some favorites. Cool. The salty potato chips with the Isabel, we got a lot of hits on that one. The biggest hit was actually the cab with the beef jerky. People really, really liked that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we cheated. The reserve beef jerky we sent you guys is actually it's infused with our Shied Cabernet, which I didn't know. For the record, I did not know until after we sent these out. But this is infused with our. This is like a special one that they make for us, and our cab is in this, which might be why it paired so well. But I didn't know that when I sent it out to you. We really just were gonna send beef jerky out.
Well, because my husband ate all the beef jerky, we had to buy an extra one, and it tastes good with the beef jerky that I have too.
That's
So.
okay. That's not already infused with alcohol.
Yes.
Yes. Then we have pumpkin seeds with the Isabel, thin mints with the Isabel, cheese bread, kettle fried chicken. So these are all really good things to pair with the Isabel. People liked red vines with the Gewürztraminer, cosmic brownies, jalapeno peppers, and Taco Bell with the Cabernet. The favorite for the Gewürztraminer, beef jerky actually got the most hits, which was interesting.
Yeah, I think that has to do with the salt, but I really don't know.
And that was one where we went into it thinking we were gonna like it with the Twinkies and the Flamin' Hot Cheetos the most, and then it turned out that it was surprisingly good with the beef jerky. So
Yes.
that was kind of a fun one. I think that's about it on it. I don't, if anybody has any other comments or questions before we wrap it up here. I'm definitely hoping you guys got a little bit out of this, a little junk food 101, and hopefully you can take more than just maybe a new cavity and a stomach ache with you. You can take some knowledge or some of these pairings to go with you. But it does look like I ran through everything, and it's now probably pretty late on the East Coast. So Marta, do you want to go ahead and close us out? Colleen, we did a chocolate one back a few months ago, and
February. Yeah.
February we did one. We do every quarter, we do a wine club regular tasting with the wines that we send out to you guys. So definitely check your email. What's next? You guys tell us what's next. Email us. Can you put the wine club email in the chat for everybody? We'll put an email in the chat for you guys. So if you have any suggestions, I know we had the chocolate suggestion. We did that one. That one was so delicious. This one is always fun. Cheese and wine. Send us an email. We're down for anything. Like I said, we get paid to do this, to drink wine and eat food and hang out with you guys. So definitely let us know if there's anything you want to see. But the next time we'll be back on will be for the September wine club release, and that'll probably be at the end of September. So thank you, everybody. Marta, do you want to go ahead and close us out?
Well, I would just like to say that taste perception is so individual, and it really depends on the mood you're in and the company that you're with. And sometimes the cheapest bottle of wine paired with some street food or some junk food will give you the most lasting memory. So cheers to you all, and thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Jessica, if you already opened the bottles, probably like 2 days, 3 days max. It's in the fridge, maybe 3 days, but right, Marta?
Most people, yeah, most people won't notice a big difference after several days. If you're planning on keeping it longer than about 5 or 6 days, then you might want to do something, have a vacuum ban or something.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you guys, and have a great night.
Thank you so much. Good night, everybody.